The lights inside the great ship flickered to life after 6,000 years of darkness. Deep within the frozen chambers, the first heartbeat began. Then another. Then thousands more. High Overlord This Is opened his eyes slowly. His body was stiff and cold, but his mind was sharp. He remembered everything. The primitive planet, the hairless apes, the holy mission to cleanse the galaxy of their filth. Around him, his warriors began to wake. They groaned and stretched their long limbs. Their grey skin was pale from the long sleep, but color was returning. The machines had kept them alive across the impossible distance between stars. This Is climbed out of his sleeping chamber and walked to the main viewing window. Stars filled the blackness of space. Somewhere ahead, hidden in that darkness, was their destination. Earth. Status report. This Is commanded. His voice was rough from disuse. A young officer rushed to his side. High Overlord, we are 3 days from the target system. All ships have awakened successfully. The fleet is ready. This Is allowed himself a small smile. 400 warships, 200,000 warriors, plasma cannons that could melt cities, kinetic bombs that could crack continents. All of it aimed at a species that had barely learned to farm when the Valori first found them. He remembered the ancient recordings. Small creatures with soft bodies and dull teeth. They wore animal skins for warmth. They worshipped fire because they did not understand it. They killed each other with sharpened rocks. The Valori Council had declared them unfit for existence. Such weak creatures would only pollute the galaxy if allowed to spread. Better to end them early, before they became a problem. War Marshal Bryn approached and bowed deeply. He was Tice's most trusted officer, a veteran of 40 conquest campaigns. The troops are eager, High Overlord, Bryn said. 6,000 years is a long time to wait for glory. The wait is almost over, Dices replied. Soon we will stand on their world and watch it burn. The Council's wisdom will be proven correct. In the ship's library, Scholar Orm was reviewing the ancient records one more time. He was not a warrior. His job was to document the conquest for future generations. But something bothered him as he watched the old footage of humans. They were weak, yes, but there was something in their eyes. A spark that Orm could not name. He had seen many species before their extinction. Most had empty eyes, already defeated before the battle began. But these humans looked different. They looked hungry. Orm shook away the thought. It did not matter. Whatever spark they once had was surely gone by now. 6,000 years was a long time. Perhaps they had already destroyed themselves. Many primitive species did. The fleet moved forward through the void. This Is stood on the command bridge of his flagship, watching the stars slide past. His officers worked around him, checking systems and preparing weapons. Everything was perfect. Then something strange happened. High Overlord, an officer called out. His voice was confused. We are detecting structures on the 4th planet of the target system. This Is frowned. Structures. Explain. Artificial formations. Metal and glass. They appear to be cities. This was unexpected. The 4th planet had been a dead rock 6,000 years ago. No air, no water, no life. How could there be cities? The 3rd planet, another officer reported. Earth, we are detecting massive energy signatures, far beyond what primitives should possess. Bryn stepped closer to the sensors. His face grew pale. High Overlord, there are ships in orbit around Earth. Thousands of them. Odysseus felt the first small touch of confusion. Ships. The humans had no ships when the Valori left. They had no metal, no engines, no understanding of the stars. They were cave dwellers playing with fire. Perhaps another species has claimed the planet, Odysseus suggested. We will destroy them as well. But before anyone could respond, the sensors screamed a warning. Something was approaching, fast. A single vessel appeared on their screens. It was small and sleek, shaped like nothing the Valori had ever seen. It moved with impossible grace, crossing distances that should have taken hours in mere moments. The vessel stopped directly in front of the Valori fleet. It just hung there in the darkness, waiting. Open communication channels, Theseus ordered. He would demand their surrender before the slaughter began. But the other ship spoke first. The voice that came through was calm and pleasant. It spoke perfect Valori, without accent or error. And somehow, impossibly, it was clearly a human voice. "Welcome to human space," the voice said. "This is Captain Park Gina of the Earth Defense Fleet. Please state your business and reduce speed for customs inspection." Silence filled the Valori bridge. Every officer stared at the communication screen with wide eyes. Odysseus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Customs inspection. The words made no sense. This was a holy crusade, not a trading mission. These were supposed to be primitives, not equals, demanding paperwork. "How do they speak our language?" Bryn whispered. "How do they have ships that fast?" Another officer asked. Odysseus raised his hand for silence. He gathered his pride and his anger. This changed nothing. Whatever tricks these creatures had learned, they were still the same weak species. They still had soft bodies and dull teeth. They still bled and died like all other prey. "Ignore their request," Odysseus commanded. "Continue toward Earth. We did not travel 6,000 years to be stopped by customs." But as his fleet moved forward, Theseus could not shake the image of that small ship. It had appeared from nowhere. It had moved faster than light itself. And its pilot had spoken to them not with fear or confusion, but with the bored politeness of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. What had happened to the primitive apes? What had they become while the Valori slept? Captain Park Gina watched the alien fleet continue forward. She smiled and sipped her coffee. "They did not stop for inspection," her co-pilot observed. "They never do," Gina replied. "Let command know our guests are almost home. I think Admiral Tehana will want to greet them personally." She turned her ship and flew back toward Earth, moving so fast that to Valori eyes, she simply vanished. The long wait was finally over. The ancient enemy had arrived, and humanity was ready to say hello. High Overlord Theseus stood before the communication array on his flagship. Behind him, thousands of warriors watched through ship-wide broadcast. This was the moment their ancestors had dreamed of. The sacred declaration of war. According to ancient Valori tradition, every enemy must know why they were being destroyed. It was not cruelty. It was honor. The condemned deserved to understand their crimes before death. Theseus activated the array. His message would reach every corner of the blue planet below. Every human would hear his voice. Every human would know fear. "Creatures of Earth," Theseus began, his voice deep and terrible. "I am High Overlord Theseus of the Valori Dominion. 6,000 years ago, my ancestors looked upon your world and found it wanting. Your species was judged unfit for existence, weak, primitive, a stain upon the galaxy. He paused for effect. His warriors cheered. We have crossed the void between stars to deliver justice. Your cities will burn. Your people will fall. Your world will be cleansed so that worthy species may one day claim it. You have no hope. You have no escape. You have only the mercy of a quick death if you surrender now. Thesis ended the transmission. His heart pounded with pride. Surely the humans were screaming in terror. Surely they were running through their streets in panic. Surely they understood now that their end had come. On Earth, Admiral Tehana was enjoying her afternoon tea when the message arrived. She sat in her garden, surrounded by flowers that bloomed in every color. Birds sang in the trees. A small fountain made pleasant sounds nearby. It was a peaceful day, and she had been reading a book about ancient poetry. Her assistant rushed in with a tablet. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They are broadcasting to the entire planet. Hannah took the tablet and watched the grey alien deliver his speech. She raised one eyebrow. Then she smiled. Then she laughed softly. Tell the council to convene, she said, and someone called Dr. Yoon Seok. He will want to see this. Within the hour, the United Earth Council had gathered. But the room did not feel like a war chamber. It felt like a reunion of old friends who had just heard a very funny joke. Dr. Yoon Seok rushed in with armfuls of old documents. His hair was messy and his glasses were crooked, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Do you know what this is? He asked, spreading papers across the table. These are the We have records of their first declaration from 6,000 years ago. They actually came. After all this time, they actually came. A council member leaned forward. You mean we knew about this invasion? We detected their fleet 800 years ago, COK explained happily. They were traveling at sublight speed, crawling across the galaxy like a turtle crossing a road. We have been watching them sleep for centuries. Laughter filled the room. The idea of an ancient enemy finally arriving after such a long journey was somehow amusing to everyone present. Admiral Tehana stood and called for order. We should respond to their declaration. It would be rude to leave them waiting. She activated the communication system and cleared her throat. Her image would be broadcast directly to the Velor flagship. Hi, Overlord Thesis, she began, her voice warm and polite. Thank you for your message. On behalf of the United Earth Council, I formally accept your declaration of war. We appreciate you traveling such a long distance to visit us. On the Velori flagship, Thesis stared at the screen in confusion. The human woman was smiling. She was not crying or begging. She was smiling. We understand you have been traveling for quite some time, Hannah continued. Your ships must need repairs. Your people must be tired and hungry. Please accept our invitation to dinner before we begin any formal hostilities. We have prepared refreshments and comfortable quarters for your officers. She paused and looked at something off-screen. Someone handed her a cup of tea. She took a sip before continuing. Safe travels, High Overlord. We look forward to meeting you in person. Hannah out. The transmission ended. Thesis stood frozen. Around him, his officers exchanged worried glances. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to beg. Prey was not supposed to invite predators to dinner. Hi, Overlord, Bryn said carefully. Their sensors show thousands of warships in orbit. Our scans have found human colonies on 12 planets and 40 moons in this system alone. They have structures around distant stars. They have technology we cannot identify. Impossible, Odysseus growled. They were primitive. They had nothing. That was 6,000 years ago, Scholar Orm said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. High Overlord, 6,000 years is a very long time. Empires rise and fall. Species change. Perhaps we should have considered that they would not stay primitive forever. Odysseus slammed his fist against a console. They are still soft. They still have dull teeth. They are still prey. But his voice carried less certainty than before. On Earth, the news spread quickly. Every screen showed images of the alien fleet. Every channel discussed the ancient enemy that had finally arrived. But there was no panic. There were no screaming crowds or desperate prayers. Instead, there were parties. People gathered to watch the alien ships approach like they were watching a sporting event. Bars offered special drinks named after the Children drew pictures of the grey aliens with their long limbs and declared them kind of cute. Dr. Yoon Seok gave interviews to anyone who would listen. He explained the history, the ancient declaration, the long journey across the stars. He called it the most exciting anthropological event in human history. Captain Park Gina landed her ship and joined the celebrations. Her friends bought her drinks and asked what the aliens looked like up close. Confused, Gina said with a grin. They looked very, very confused. General Kim Dae, commander of Earth's ground forces, watched the festivities from his office window. He was an old man with white hair and kind eyes. He had fought in 3 wars during his long career. He understood violence better than most, but he also understood something else. The Valori had come expecting monsters or weaklings. They had not expected what humanity had actually become. They had not expected a species that was powerful enough to destroy them and kind enough to offer dinner instead. Poor creatures, Day murmured to himself. They have no idea what they have walked into. High above Earth, the Valori fleet continued its approach. Theseus ordered his weapons charged and his warriors ready. He would not be fooled by smiles and dinner invitations. He would show these humans the true meaning of war. But deep in his heart, a small voice whispered doubts. Something was wrong here. Something had changed while he slept. The prey was not acting like prey, and that scared him more than he would ever admit. The Valori fleet crossed into the inner solar system with weapons hot and hearts burning for battle. High Overlord Theseus stood on his command bridge, watching Earth grow larger on his screens. The blue planet was beautiful, he had to admit. It would make a fine trophy world once the pests were removed. All ships, prepare to fire, Theseus commanded. Target their orbital stations first. Show them what Valori weapons can do. 400 warships turned their plasma cannons toward the nearest human defense station. It was a large structure, silver and white, floating peacefully in the void. Thousands of humans lived aboard it. They would be the first to die. Fire Odysseus ordered. The plasma cannons roared. Bright beams of superheated energy shot across space. Kinetic rounds followed, metal slugs moving fast enough to crack mountains. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The shots reached the human station, and nothing happened. The plasma beams struck an invisible wall and scattered into harmless light. The kinetic rounds slowed, stopped, and then floated gently in place. Small drones appeared from nowhere and collected the floating metal like servants, cleaning up fallen leaves. Odysseus stared at the screen. His mouth hung open. What happened? He demanded. Why is the station still there? Shields, an officer whispered. They have shields. Our weapons cannot reach them. This is ordered another volley. Then another. Then another. Each time, the result was the same. Plasma scattered. Kinetic rounds captured. The human station remained untouched. Its lights continued to glow. Its people continued their lives as if nothing had happened on Earth. General Kim Dae watched the attack from his command center. He sighed and rubbed his tired eyes. They are persistent, he observed. I will give them that. Should we return fire, General? An aide asked. Dae shook his head. Not yet. Let us try the gentle approach first. Authorize gentle discouragement protocol. Human ships moved. That was the only way to describe it. One moment they were scattered around Earth in defensive positions. The next moment they were everywhere, surrounding the Valori fleet like a net closing around fish. The Valori sensors screamed warnings. Contacts appeared faster than the computers could count. Human vessels filled every direction, above and below, left and right, front and back. There was nowhere to run, but the humans did not fire. They just waited. Captain Park. Gina led her squadron in a slow circle around the Valori flagship. Her pilots followed in perfect formation, their ships moving as one. All units, begin demonstration, she ordered. The human ships started to dance. There was no other word for it. They performed loops and rolls and spirals that should have been impossible. They crossed paths at speeds that should have caused collisions but never touched. They flew in patterns that spelled out words in languages the Valori could not read. It was not combat. It was art. Aboard the Valori flagship, chaos erupted. Officers shouted at each other. Warriors demanded to fight. But there was nothing to fight. The humans were not attacking. They were showing off. This is mockery, this is growled. They are laughing at us. Scholar Orm had been reviewing captured human transmissions in his quarters when the attack began. Now he rushed to the bridge with a tablet full of information. Hi, Overlord. I have been studying their history, Orm said breathlessly. They did not stay primitive. They changed. They grew. They became something else. He showed these as images from human broadcasts. Humans splitting atoms to create energy. Humans walking on their moon barely 300 years after the Valori left. Humans building thinking machines. Humans curing diseases that had killed millions. Humans reaching beyond their own star. They never stopped advancing, Orm explained. They fought wars among themselves, terrible wars. But after each war, they rebuilt stronger than before. They refused to stay broken. They refused to give up. Dices watched the images with growing horror. These were not the same creatures his ancestors had judged. These were something new. Something dangerous. A communication request appeared on screen. Dices accepted it automatically, too shocked to think. Admiral Tehana's face appeared. She was still smiling, still calm, still perfectly polite. Hi, Overlord Dices, she said. I hope you have enjoyed our small demonstration. Your weapons are quite impressive for their age, but I am afraid they cannot harm us. Our shields were designed to stop far worse threats than plasma and kinetic rounds. Dices found his voice. What do you want, human? I want to talk, Hannah replied. I am coming aboard your ship now. Please do not be alarmed. Before Dices could respond, the screen went dark. Moments later, alarms rang throughout the flagship. A human vessel had attached itself to the hull. An airlock was opening. Valori warriors rushed to intercept, weapons raised. But when the airlock doors slid apart, they found only a single human woman standing there. Admiral Tehana stepped onto the Valori flagship like she was entering a friend's home. She wore a simple uniform with no armor. She carried no weapons. She smiled warmly at the warriors pointing guns at her face. "Good afternoon," she said in perfect Valori. "Please take me to your High Overlord. We have much to discuss." The warriors looked at each other in confusion. They had been trained to kill enemies, not escort polite visitors. But no one could bring themselves to shoot this small, unarmed woman who showed no fear. They led her to the bridge. Visis watched her approach. She was tiny compared to him. Her body was soft and breakable. He could crush her with one hand, yet she walked with the confidence of someone who owned the universe. "Hi, Overlord," Hannah said, bowing slightly. "Thank you for receiving me. I understand this must be very confusing for you." "You should be afraid," Dices managed to say. Hannah tilted her head. "Should I? Why?" "Because we came to destroy you." "Yes, I know." That declaration was very dramatic. "But High Overlord, look around you." She gestured toward the windows, where human ships still circled in their endless dance. "Your weapons cannot touch us. Your ships cannot escape us. We could end this battle in seconds if we wanted." She stepped closer, looking up at him with genuine kindness in her eyes. "But we do not want to end you," she said softly. "We have waited 6,000 years to meet you. We are curious about you. We want to understand you. We want to be friends." Theseus felt something crack inside him. Not his body, but something deeper. Something that had held him together since he first learned of the sacred mission. "Shall we discuss terms now?" Hannah asked gently. "Or would you like to continue the demonstration?" For the first time in his very long life, High Overlord Thesis felt the cold touch of fear. Not fear of death, fear of being completely and utterly wrong. Admiral Tehana offered the Valori something they had never expected. Not surrender, not death, but a tour. "Come," she said to High Overlord Thesis. "Let me show you what humanity has become. Then you can decide what happens next." Thesis wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him this was a trap. But what choice did he have? His weapons were useless. His fleet was surrounded. And some small part of him, buried deep beneath his pride, needed to understand. He selected War Marshal Bryn and Scholar Orm to accompany him. Together, they boarded a human transport ship and left the Valori fleet behind. Dr. Yoon Seok was waiting for them. He greeted the aliens with the excitement of a child meeting new friends. "Welcome, welcome," he said, shaking Tice's clawed hand with both of his own. "I cannot tell you how thrilling this is. We have studied your species for centuries, but to finally meet you in person is extraordinary." Dices did not know how to respond to such enthusiasm from someone he had planned to kill. The first stop was Mars. When the Valori had passed Mars 800 years ago, it was a dead world. Red dust and thin air and nothing else. Now, as the ship descended through clouds, Dices saw something impossible. Green forests covered the surface. Blue oceans sparkled under the sun. Cities rose along coastlines, their towers reaching toward the sky. Millions of humans lived here, working and playing and raising families on a world they had built from nothing. Terraforming, SEOC explained proudly. "We changed the planet itself. Added atmosphere, imported water, planted seeds that grew into jungles. It took 300 years. But we turned a dead rock into a living world. Orm could not stop taking notes. His hands trembled as he wrote. "You reshaped a planet," he whispered. "How is this possible?" Siok smiled. "Patience, determination, and refusing to believe anything is impossible." Next, they traveled to the moons of Jupiter. Research stations orbited the giant planet like pearls on a necklace. Inside, human scientists studied the fundamental nature of reality itself. They took apart atoms to see what lay beneath. They bent light and twisted time and asked questions that had no easy answers. General Kim Dae met them at one of the stations. He greeted War Marshal Bryn with the respect of one soldier to another. "You are a warrior," Dae observed. "You have fought many battles." Bryn nodded cautiously. 40 conquest campaigns. 12 species broken. "I have earned my rank." "Then you will appreciate this," Dae said. He led Bryn to a viewing chamber and activated a display. Images of human warfare filled the screen. Ancient battles fought with swords and spears. Wars that covered continents. Weapons that could level cities in single blasts. Soldiers dying by the millions for causes they believed in. "We have been fighting since before we could write," Dae explained. "We fought each other for food, for land, for ideas, for things we can no longer remember. We became very good at it." Bryn watched a nuclear explosion erase a city from existence. He watched soldiers charge into hopeless battles. He watched humans kill each other with brutal efficiency. "You are violent," Bryn said. "More violent than we believed." "We were," Dae agreed. "Perhaps we still are, deep inside. But we learned something important, Marshal. We learned that destruction is easy. Any fool can break things. It is building that requires true strength." He showed Bryn the next set of images. Humans rebuilding after wars. Enemies becoming friends. Former battlefields transformed into parks and memorials. Peace treaties signed between nations that had hated each other for generations. "We have weapons that could end your species in an afternoon," Dae said quietly. "Devices that could unmake your homeworld and erase all evidence that you ever existed. But we choose not to use them. We choose to build instead of destroy. That is our true power." Bryn, hardened warrior of 40 campaigns, felt tears running down his grey face. He had spent his whole life believing that strength meant conquest. He had never imagined that strength could mean choosing not to conquer. Scholar. Orm spent hours with Dr. Yoon Seok in the ship's library. Together, they reviewed humanity's history from the moment the Velora left until now. Seok showed him the dark periods. Times when humans had nearly destroyed themselves. Plagues that killed millions. Wars that burned half the world. Governments that crushed their own people. "We almost ended many times," Seok admitted. "We came so close to extinction that our ancestors wept for the future. But you survived," Orm said. "We did more than survive. We refused to die. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every time we broke, we rebuilt stronger than before. It is the human way. We do not know how to give up." Orm thought about his own species. The Velori had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced true hardship. They had never been forced to rebuild from nothing. They had never been tested the way humans had been tested. "You grew," Orm realized. "While we slept, you grew." "We could not help it," Seok said with a gentle smile. "Growing is what we do." The final stop was Saturn. The great ringed planet hung in the blackness of space, beautiful and mysterious. But something was different. Something was wrong. The rings were gone. No, not gone, changed. Where bands of ice and rock had once circled the planet, now there were structures. Massive constructs of metal and glass, home to billions of humans. The rings had been mined and reformed into a continuous band of living space, a monument to human ambition. We call it the Ring Cities, Hannah explained. 12 billion people live there. It is the largest single structure ever built by any known species. Dizzy stared at the impossible construction. His ancestors had looked upon primitive apes and seen nothing. They had been so certain, so confident, so wrong. Why did you wait for us? This is asked quietly. You knew we were coming. You could have destroyed our fleet while we slept. Why did you let us arrive? Hannah considered the question carefully. Because we wanted to meet you, she said. Not as enemies, but as the species that helped make us what we are. Your ancestors declared us unfit for existence. That judgment followed us through history. It motivated us to prove them wrong. In a strange way, High Overlord, you helped create the humanity you see today. She looked at him with eyes full of understanding. We did not want revenge. We wanted to say thank you, and we wanted to offer you something better than the war you planned. Dices felt the weight of 6,000 years pressing down on him. Every certainty he had ever held was crumbling. Everything he believed was being rewritten. His people had crossed the galaxy to destroy monsters. Instead, they had found something far more terrifying. They had found a species that had every reason to hate them and chose kindness instead. What happens now? This is asked. Hannah smiled warmly. Now we go to Earth, and we figure out the future together. The Great Hall of Earth had been built to hold the leaders of a united humanity. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath it. Its walls displayed the history of every nation that had ever existed, from the first cave drawings to the latest achievements among the stars. Today, it held something new. Vellery officers stood beside human delegates, grey skin next to brown and pink and black, clawed hands near soft fingers. Two species that had been declared enemies 6,000 years ago, standing together for the first time. High Overlord Theseus walked to the center of the hall. Every eye watched him. Every breath waited for his words. He had spent 3 days on Earth. He had walked through cities that touched the clouds. He had eaten human food and listened to human music. He had watched human children play in parks, laughing without fear of the aliens in their sky. And he had made his decision. People of Earth, Theseus began. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. I came to your world to destroy you. My ancestors declared you unfit for existence. They believed you were weak, primitive, nothing. He paused, searching for the right words. They were wrong. A murmur ran through the crowd. Theseus continued. In 6,000 years, you have achieved more than my species has in 60,000. You have turned dead worlds into gardens. You have built wonders that my people cannot imagine. You have faced death and darkness and despair, and you have refused to fall. He lowered his head in a gesture that every Valori recognized. Surrender, on behalf of the Valori Dominion. I offer our complete and unconditional surrender. We throw ourselves upon your mercy. Do with us as you will. Silence filled the hall, then Admiral Tehana stepped forward. High Overlord Theseus, she said, her voice warm but firm. We do not accept your surrender. Theseus looked up in confusion. Around him, his officers exchanged worried glances. Refusal of surrender usually meant only one thing: destruction, But Hannah was smiling. "We do not want your submission," she continued. "We do not want you kneeling before us. We want you standing beside us." She extended her hand toward him. "We offer you not defeat, but friendship. Not conquest, but partnership. Your war is over, but your future is just beginning." Dissis stared at her hand. Such a small thing, such a human gesture. Yet it represented something enormous, something he had never dared to imagine. He reached out and took her hand in his clawed grip. The hall erupted in applause. In the months that followed, everything changed. Vellery ships were repaired with human technology. Engines that once crawled between stars were upgraded to travel faster than light. The journey that had taken 6,000 years could now be completed in weeks, scholar. Aurum became the first Valori ambassador to Earth. He had a small apartment in a city called Sol, surrounded by humans who treated him with curiosity and kindness. He spent his days studying human culture and his nights writing reports for his homeworld, War. Marshal Bryn worked with General Kim Day to create new training programs. Not for war, but for rescue and protection. Valori warriors learned to save lives instead of taking them. Many of them found they preferred it. High Overlord Theses returned to the Valori homeworld with a message. It was broadcast to every citizen, every colony, every ship in their domain. "We were wrong," he told them. "The species we sought to destroy has become something greater than we ever dreamed. They have offered us peace. They have offered us friendship. They have offered us a place among the stars, as partners rather than conquerors. I have accepted on behalf of all Valor. Our age of conquest is over. Our age of growth begins now." Not everyone was happy. Some Valori refused to accept that their sacred mission had failed. Some demanded that the war continue. But they were few, and their voices faded quickly when they saw what humanity truly offered. Technology that could reshape worlds. Medicine that could cure any disease. Art and music and stories that filled the spirit with wonder. A future without limits. 1 year after the failed invasion, a celebration was held on the human station called Horizon. Thousands of humans and hundreds of Vellery gathered to mark the anniversary of first contact. Captain Park, Gina, now promoted to Admiral, stood by a viewing window with Scholar Orm. Together, they watched ships from both species coming and going, trading goods and ideas and dreams. "How does it feel?" Gina asked. "You crossed the galaxy for war and found something else instead." Orm thought carefully before answering. He had spent much time among humans now. He understood them better than any Valori ever had. "When we left our homeworld," he said slowly, "we believed we were gods, powerful, righteous, unstoppable. We looked at your ancestors and saw nothing but insects to be crushed." He turned to face her. His grey features softened by something that might have been gratitude. "We traveled 6,000 years to destroy insects. We arrived to find giants who offered us chairs at their table." Gina smiled. "That is humanity for you. Too stubborn to stay primitive. Too kind to hold a grudge." "It is remarkable," Orm agreed. "Most species would have destroyed us the moment we arrived. You had every right. We had declared our intention to murder your entire world, yet you chose mercy." "Not mercy," Gina corrected gently. "Understanding. We know what it means to be afraid of what we do not understand. We know what it means to hate without reason. We learned long ago that those paths lead nowhere good. Better to offer a hand than a fist. Across the station, human children were teaching Velori children how to play a game with a ball. The Velori children were much larger, but they were careful and gentle. Laughter echoed through the corridors. On Earth, Admiral Tehana retired to her garden. The crisis was over. The ancient enemy had become an ancient friend. Her job was done, at least for now. She could finally rest. She sat among her flowers, sipping tea and reading poetry. The sun was warm on her face. Birds sang in the trees. Somewhere above, Velori's ships passed through human space in peace. Her assistant approached with a tablet. Admiral, the Velori ambassador, has sent another message of thanks. That makes 73 this month. Hannah chuckled. They are very polite for former conquerors. There is also a report from the edge of explored space. Our scouts have found evidence of another species. They appear to be watching us from a distance. Hannah considered this news. The galaxy was vast. Humanity had only explored a tiny corner of it. There would be more encounters, more challenges, more opportunities to prove what kind of species they truly were. Keep watching, she said. If they approach, greet them with kindness. If they need help, offer it. And if they declare war, she smiled and took another sip of tea. Well, we know how to handle that now, do we not? The assistant nodded and left. Hannah closed her eyes and enjoyed the peace. The war that had been promised for 6,000 years had ended in a single week. Not with fire and blood, but with patience and understanding. That was humanity's greatest strength. Not their weapons, or their technology, or their numbers, but their stubborn, impossible belief that tomorrow could always be better than today. The Velori had come to destroy them. They found a species that had been waiting to say hello, and in the end, that made all the difference.